I don't know what terrible things you've done in your life up to this point, but clearly your karma is out of balance to get assigned to my class. I'm Professor Annalise Keating, and this is Criminal Law 100, or as I prefer to call it, How to Get Away with Murder.
Is How to Get Away with Murder the biggest hit on TV this season? Well, that used to be an easy question to answer, but these days, not so much. Here to explain why figuring out what people like to watch now depends on who you ask is WSJ entertainment reporter John Jurgensen. Hi, John. Thanks so much for being with us. What happened to good old-fashioned Nielsen ratings to tell broadcasters what's popular with viewers?
They haven't gone anywhere. The good old-fashioned Nielsen ratings still very much run the business and determine where the money goes in the television industry. The thing that's changing a lot is the way that people are watching TV. I mean, that's changing dramatically. Just think about how many shows you have stacked up on your DVR at home, and when you might watch them might be a couple of days after the initial air date, might be a week or even more after that. So the trick is in figuring out how all this big picture works into a solid, comprehensive look at what a hit is, and that really depends on sort of who you're asking and how you're slicing the data. Add to that the fact that there's so much sort of digital data out there, the stuff that measures how people react to TV in addition to how they watch it.
So how are broadcasters handling and collecting all this data? What does it tell them, if anything?
Well, it tells them a lot in lots of different ways. So for the traditional viewing data, they go to Nielsen or its competitor RentTrack to look at core viewership numbers. But then increasingly they're looking at stuff like Twitter, which actually has a partnership with Nielsen to release Twitter ratings for TV shows to look at the kind of conversation around television shows. And that gives them a real specific window into what people are talking about and when in real time as shows air, but it is somewhat limited. I mean, not everyone's on Twitter. Your grandmother might not be using Twitter to talk about TV,
absolutely,
or even lots of adults even aren't on Twitter compared to other technologies. So it's a small and very vocal slice of the TV audience, but one that gets a lot of attention because it's transparent. You can look right at it and see what's happening in real time. So that is very attractive to networks, but not necessarily a big picture.
So what about the phenomenon of the sleeper hit? Does that happen anymore now that every bit of information about entertainment is now processed through social media?
Well, I think the sleeper hit is very much there, and I think networks, the upshot of a lot of this is that networks are perhaps giving a little bit more time to TV shows that they might have pulled the plug on earlier, just looking at core ratings. If you look at the ratings and it's not doing well there, years ago you would have axed it right away because you weren't that confident in it. Now, if you look at other indicators, such as the chatter on social media or delayed viewing as people pick up on it on their DVRs, that might give you a little more incentive to hang around with a show and maybe give it a more chance. I think the tough thing about it is there's so much noise around TV these days. So if it's not a hit on social media, if it's not an immediate hit, the ratings, it tends to get overshadowed and overlooked.
Now, what about the audience for recaps? How important is that audience to broadcasters nowadays?
Well, I'm not sure how much broadcasters actually pay attention to it, but this is one of the factors that we looked at because as a TV consumer, recaps are everywhere. Every kind of outlet that covers entertainment, including the Wall Street Journal, publishes recaps. These sort of analyses and breakdowns of episodes right after they air, and these serve as sort of discussion hubs for viewers, places where they can go to read about these shows and also sort of chat with each other about them. So it tends to be an indicator, not unlike Twitter, of a show that has a lot of discussion around it, things that kind of meaty shows that viewers want to dig into. So, for example, sort of the Shonda Rhimes produced shows on ABC, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder now, Grey's Anatomy. Shows like that are kind of soapy and dramatic have a lot to talk about week by week. So those tend to be recaps. The number of recaps being published tends to be an interesting indicator of fan enthusiasm, at least.
I've checked out a lot of recaps of Game of Thrones myself, so I've been there. John, thank you so much.
You need that.